Yay. Fantastic. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. I am Natasha Tomlinson, your Arizona realtor and homeowner advocate, helping you navigate through challenging times. Tonight's webinar is called Real Options, Real Relief, because that's really what I'd like to discuss with you tonight, what I'd like to have you walk away with tonight. Real knowledge, real solutions, and real hope. If you're here, you may be facing some sort of challenge, some sort of hardship. Maybe it's health related, a divorce, job loss, debt, and it's making it hard for you to keep up with your mortgage. First, let me say this. You are not alone and you're not stuck, all right? Tonight, I'll walk you through what is happening in the greater Phoenix metro area in our real estate market, the truth about foreclosures, and the options you have to protect your home and ultimately protect your dignity. So, let's take the fear out of this conversation and know you have options, and foreclosure is not the only option available to you. Again, I repeat, you are not alone. Thousands of Arizona homeowners are facing similar struggles. And yes, there are folks in other states that are, it's, New York, New Jersey, California, Chicago, the Carolinas, just to name a few. But they're facing Florida. They're facing, more people are facing these challenges. You're not alone. But tonight we're focusing in on Arizona. And know if you're behind in your payments, again, you are not alone. And that you have more options available to you than you think. Real choices and pathway forward. But first, let's start with the news that came out today. Today, the Federal Reserve made a cut to the Fed funds rate to the tune of a cut of 0.25%. And most Fed officials, they expect there to be as many as 2 more cuts to the Fed funds rate before the end of the year. And others say, no, we probably won't do anything until next year, 2026. Now, I looked at my crystal ball. I looked at my magic 8 ball and I said, what's going to happen? Show me, tell me what's going to happen. And it laughed at me, okay? Because there are so many things to factor in, so many moving pieces here. Are we heading to a recession? What's happening with jobs? What's happening with inflation and tariffs? Who knows? There are wild cards, and policymakers are watching. They're watching to see how trade and consumer prices play out. Now, here's a quick reminder for those of you who may not know, or you just don't remember because you don't talk about this every day, right? So the Fed funds rate is not the same as mortgage rates, okay? But when the Fed policy shifts, mortgage rates often follow. The question is, do they shift up or do they shift down, right? Already, we've seen mortgage rates come down about 1% when compared to January of this year. All right. So, and what that translates to, it means that on average, your monthly payment, the person who applied for a mortgage in January and the person who applies for a mortgage today, on average, your payment is down 10%. So if you were quoted a payment of $2,500, that payment today would be $2,250, thereabouts. So that's some relief, right? That's relief to use to go shoe shopping, go travel, or better yet, put away for a rainy day, because the rain comes, right? But ultimately what it means is that more potential buyers can qualify today than they could earlier this year. So now let's talk about our greater Phoenix market. Remembering that real estate is local, it is hyper local. The greater Phoenix metro area, it's big, it's diverse, and not all cities move in the same way. All cities don't appreciate at the same rate. Right now, we have certain areas that are in sellers markets, some areas are in buyers markets, and some are more balanced. The sellers markets are Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Anthem, Fountain Hills, El Mirage, Sun Lakes, Apache Junction, Chandler, Cave Creek, and Avondale. And these areas are where demand is, let's call it, steady, healthy, and sellers have a slight edge. Now, I wouldn't say that you should expect multiple offer scenarios in all of these cities, but I would say that the marketing times tend to be less if your home is priced appropriately, if it looks good, if it smells good. More buyers would gravitate towards these areas. This is where a lot of the employment centers are, right? Now, the buyers markets are Sun City, Gold Canyon, Laveen, Surprise, Litchfield Park, Queen Creek, Arizona City, Buckeye, Maricopa, and Casa Grande. And buyers in these areas tend to have more negotiating power. We see buyers in these areas have more, concessions towards closing costs, because there's less demand, less qualified buyers in these areas, and more supply of homes. And these areas also tend to be communities with more new home construction, right? Adding to that supply. Balance is the rest of the cities that I didn't mention, and there's not a strong advantage either way to buyer or seller. Now, I know in the news you may have heard about foreclosures or pre-foreclosure, or you yourself may be behind on payment and be in pre-foreclosure, or maybe you are as far as having an auction date set. Now, I know that's why many of you are tuning in here. So, July, we saw the foreclosure activity spike, and there's a few reasons for that. We had the jobs reports, interest rates, some of the moratoriums that we had previous in place were expiring. The next one to expire is the end of this month. It is September 17th. The FHA one is set to expire the end of this month. But we did see a decline in August in foreclosure activity. We saw a rise in July and a decline in August. But I want to put this in perspective for you, all right? Let's think back, way back to March of 2009. And that for us was the peak of the housing crash. We had over 10,558 pre-foreclosure notices in 1 month, right? And in August of 2025, we had less than 1,000, all right? So yes, pre-foreclosures in Phoenix are up this quarter, but this is nothing like 2009, nothing like 2008. Still, if you're behind on payments, it feels like a crisis to you. It feels like a crash to you. I get it. By ignoring it, it won't go away. The homeowners who win are the ones who act early. Let's shift gears a little bit. I just want to give a quick note to our veterans out there and anyone holding a VA loan. Some VA loan borrowers in Arizona have been mistakenly receiving foreclosure letters. Yeah. And if this happens to you, please don't panic. All right. Double check the details, contact your servicer, and reach out for help. You served your country. You deserve clarity and protection. And if you get a notice that doesn't make sense, be sure to reach out to me. You do not have to face this alone. Now, let's get to the heart of why you're here. Your options. What are they? Well, option one, a few options we're going to review tonight. Option one that we're discussing is the instant cash offer. And if you need out fast, you don't want to do the showings, you don't want to do the repairs, you don't want to fix up the property, none of that, instant cash offer could be for you. Now, it's something to explore. Maybe that's up your alley. Maybe not, because you more than likely will get less than what the property is worth today, but it will be quick. Option two is the loan modification. And that works directly with your lender to adjust the terms of your loan, to reduce payments, maybe add whatever payments you missed to the back end of your loan. All possibilities. Option three is the short sale. Now, if you owe more than what the property is worth today, owe more than market value, say, market value is $325 and you owe $400 and you just don't have $75,000 in your back pocket and you cannot afford this home, then you can sell the home with lender approval and avoid having a foreclosure on your record. Now, this is when you have a hardship of some sort, okay? There's an event that happens in your life. It's not just because you don't feel like making the payment, okay? And then there is the dignity move, what I'm calling the dignity move. And sometimes that's just the smartest play. It's downsizing. It's selling to protect the equity that you have. The dignity move, because it puts you in control instead of the bank. Now, remember again, the sooner you act, the more options you have. And once the foreclosure process gets too far along, that window of opportunity starts closing. Let's share two quick stories with you. Now, there's a couple in Phoenix, came to me 3 months behind on payments. They lost their job. One of them lost their job, but it affected the money that was coming through the door, right? Bills stay the same, money coming through the door doesn't. Problem. So they were a little frozen. They were stuck in fear. How does this play out? We can be our own worst enemy with how things are going to play out in our lives. We have vivid imaginations. Boy, do we ever. And it's important to just talk to someone. So we were able to get to the heart of the matter, what was going on, got them to make the call your servicer. Okay, I'll sit here with you, put them on speaker. Let's hear what's going on. And they asked for some documents. They had a job loss. They're able to easily prove that there was a change to their income status. And they were approved for a loan modification. And they're still in their home today. Now, another homeowner, they chose to short sale because, just to throw numbers out there, to say the home was worth $500,000 and the home was worth $400,000. They owed $500,000 and they didn't have $100,000 laying around to throw at the problem, and they too had a hardship. It wasn't easy. Okay, it wasn't easy. Life often isn't, but they walked away debt-free, not owing that extra $100,000, and then they purchased again a few years later. So you're able to move, get a hold of their finances, put some money away, and then get their footing and rebuild. Both families took control at the end of the day, and ultimately that is the key. Life happens: divorce, job loss, death, health problems, but foreclosure does not have to be the end of your story. Let's talk about your options, whether it be cash offer, loan modification, short sale, or dignity moves, or something else. There's options. Now, if you received a notice of trustee sale, how long do you have before foreclosure actually happens? Now, first, take a deep breath, okay? This process, it does not happen overnight. You didn't get in the mail and now, holy crap, we got to be gone tomorrow, okay? Unless you didn't check your mail for 90 days, okay? But ultimately, the process does not happen overnight. In Arizona, foreclosures are typically handled outside of the court system in a non-judicial foreclosure process, a trustee sale. And that's why we tend to move faster than a lot of other states, right? Like Illinois, a lot of people grew up somewhere else. Illinois, New York, New Jersey, these places, they could take 2 years before the property forecloses, but not in Arizona. Okay. Here's the basic timeline. The notice of trustee sale is filed and recorded at the county assessor. Now, once that happens, it's usually you're about 90 days behind on payments. And the lender's attorney can record that notice of trustee sale with the county. If you get a copy, you'll get a copy in the mail, and you'll get a notice posted on your property. And that means that if you're not living there and you have a tenant in there, you will get something in the mail and they will get a notice posted on their door. It is published on county websites and is public record. The notice, it must give you 90 days warning before the auction date. Now let's talk a little bit about that 90-day window. This 90-day window is critical. It is your opportunity to take action before the auction date. Now, options would be the loan modification, reinstating the loan, meaning making up payments. Okay, selling the property, arranging for a short sale, negotiating alternatives with your lender. The earlier you act, the more choices you'll have. Now, there is the trustee sale, the auction day. On the scheduled auction date, the trustee will sell the property to the highest bidder on the courtyard steps or wherever the designated location is. It will be posted. The winning bidder pays for the property, and ownership of the property is transferred to the new owner, to the highest bidder, to the winning bidder. Now, after the auction, unlike Arizona does not have a redemption period after the auction date. That foreclosure is final. The new owner can then begin the eviction proceedings if you're still in the home. So, from the day that you get the notice of trustee sale, you usually have 90 days until the auction date. So here's the reality. A lot of homeowners, they freeze and they wait. And that is why we're having this chat here tonight. You're hoping things work out. But the ones who win, who act early and have more power, more time, more options before that auction date comes. So just keep things in perspective. Here in Arizona, in March 2009, think back, March 2009, where were you? I was here in Arizona. Well, Arizona had over 10,000 pre-foreclosure notices in 1 month. Okay. Now, I know you've heard things in the news about how foreclosures are rising, pre-foreclosures are rising, but let's keep them in perspective. March 2009, over 10,000 notices in a single month. August of 2025, less than 1,000, way less than 1,000 pre-foreclosure notices, okay? That means that lenders and servicers are handling fewer cases, and you may have more room to negotiate if you take action. The bottom line, if you received a notice of trustee sale and you're in Arizona, You have property in Arizona. You don't have to go through the foreclosure process. You still have time, but that window is short. 90 days moves pretty quickly. Use those 90 days wisely, whether it's exploring a loan modification, selling your home, or looking at other just creative solutions. So if this is happening to you, I invite you not to wait. That auction date comes quickly. I'd love to talk to you about your options, and so you can take control before the bank decides for you. Schedule a free, no obligation, one-on-one consultation with me. I will give you clarity and a plan. We'll develop a plan together. So be sure to click the link. I will have it in the chat. I'll have it in the profile as well. Don't wait until the bank decides for you. Now, I know that was a mouthful, right? And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for joining me here tonight. You could have been anywhere. I realize that your time is valuable, and I thank you for joining me. Remember that being behind on your payments does not mean that you have defeated. It means you're experiencing a challenge right now, but there are options available to you, regardless of what type of loan you have. There are options available to you, and you deserve to explore them with truth and dignity. I am Natasha Tomlinson, your Arizona realtor and homeowner advocate. Let's protect your equity, your home, and ultimately your peace of mind. Have a good evening.